me go to some questions here that have been, and people want to vote. You have more things to vote on. I'm happy to take them in. So go back kind of early on. How did you figure out the right pricing for both the service and product?
Highly technical process, Pat. Not quite that, but...
Add a zero, see
Add
what
a zero.
happens.
Well, I will tell you, pricing for us was a little bit different than most SaaS companies will experience because we were not going with the $19.99 a month version. We were selling a SaaS product ultimately to big companies who didn't want per user per month pricing. They wanted enterprise pricing ultimately. So pricing was a journey for us. You know what? I don't have any brilliant insight on that other than you have to be a student of what the market will bear. You have to be willing to say no, which after you get your first few clients, you should be able to say no. Don't say no the first few times. Get those clients. But ultimately, you have to be able to say no. And if you've done a good job selling your value proposition and you can communicate the actual return, that's why some of those third-party things help. If I could say to somebody who's saying, I want it for this, I'd say, well, hang on a second. It's not me telling you that you're going to get 10x on this investment. It's these guys. Call them, and I don't need the 10x, but I need 4x, something like that. So
when was the time, one of the questions is, when was the time that you decided we're not going to, we can't scale this thing if we keep accommodating everybody's requests. We're not in the custom software business.
Right.
When did you sort of make that decision, and was it hard with the clients who'd grown accustomed to the responsiveness?
Yes, it was hard to those clients for sure. We really made that decision when we raised capital. We had the SaaS business, the Mansion by Way Room Edition, and we knew we needed to raise money. So we raised a lot more money than we thought we needed, which is one of my best practices in raising money. If you think you need this, raise that. Because first you got to pay your lawyers, and then there's a bunch of stuff you didn't expect. It would be my 2 cents on that. So that was the time we decided to scale, and we rebuilt the technology, and we went and had hard conversations with some of those early customers. And thank God we built great trusting relationships with them because we never lost them.
When you had a consulting business, some people have had a consulting business or think about that as a way in. What advice would you give them if they wanted to sort of turn a consulting business into a product or spin it off and create a product? What would your advice be to make that work?
Well, it's going to take you longer than you think. You have to be in a strong financial position because if you're really hurting for cash, the first time someone offers you cash up front for a consulting type project, you're going to say yes, and you're going to distract your roadmap and your development stuff. So be in a strong financial position. I guess the one piece of advice, it's a real positive piece of advice, which is don't shift your brain entirely. Like, we were a consulting company, now we're a SaaS company. Use your consulting background to be a uniquely and differentiated version of a company in that space. I mean, I will tell you, there are people or companies who do something like SAVO in the market. There's nobody that knows the space even remotely as close to us. And that goes back a decade now to domain expertise that we built into the consulting practice and in our early customer relationships, informed our roadmap, and made us really good at getting buy-in from senior people who didn't know they had this problem. So we went from a consulting company to a consulting company with a SaaS product to a SaaS company with a killer consulting practice. And that's the evolution I would follow.
So a couple questions about product. First one is, when you look, eventually you got competitors. Who are those competitors, and how does SAVO differentiate today and continue to try and keep a lead that allows you to be as successful as you've been in the past?
Still to this day, our biggest competitor is do nothing. So it's still an evangelistic space. If you look at the deals that SAVO's sales organization is working on today and the ones that don't close in a quarter where maybe we forecasted them to close, by far and away, 70, 80% of them are closed, no decision. So it's not closed, lost. We lost to this one or that one. It's closed, no decision, which is good and bad. It's good because they're not dead. It's bad because, wait a minute, we lost to nobody? Is sort of the obvious question. So that still is the case today. What I found was we approached the problem of sales enablement very holistically. We had a technology that could help salespeople from the early parts of their sales process all the way to the end and beyond as they were doing account management. Every part of their content needs and data needs we could push to them. There were point solutions that could handle proposals, or could do presentations, or could do competitive information, or the whole social for the business craze was the most recent one, which I think has fallen somewhat flat on its face because it doesn't actually deliver any value. But that was the latest point. Oh, we can give you a social platform. What we found ourselves in, I think, in a competitive disadvantage is we were selling this Cadillac, and other people were selling like tires. Okay, and people were ready to buy tires as opposed to the whole car. So a lot of the evolution through Mark's leadership through the organization today has been, let's keep the Cadillac, and let's begin to be able to parcel out the different parts of it as people are getting there on their journey. So now we go head to head with some of these folks on the point solution. We do it with a consultative mindset, with a holistic differentiation, but we can now sell little bits and pieces of the grand solution, and nobody can package the whole solution like we do.
And one question people have been voting for here is, how does SAVO know what info to push to a salesman? Who enters it or ties it? How do you make the connections?
Cool.
How does it really work?
Great question. Really two things. Number one, if it's integrated into CRM, which increasingly is the case with our customer base, SAVO takes the metadata from opportunity records, so who you're talking to, where you're at in your sales process, who your competitor is, and uses that as informing the right information to get pushed out to you. Think about this for a minute. Pat asked if we're competitive to CRM. No, we're quite complementary. What incentive does a salesperson have to keep an opportunity record up to date with just CRM? Well, the incentive is they don't get paid. Pretty good incentive. But their boss is telling them, you got to do this. They don't actually get any value from doing it. With SAVO integrated, if they keep that stuff up to date, the stuff that they need is smarter, better, faster, and at their fingertips in seconds. So metadata from CRM, and again, the synergy loop here works. Second thing is the technology itself is smart. So what your best people are using, the most frequently used stuff, the stuff that's working in the marketplace, inevitably through search technology that we've built our own algorithms on, the right stuff bubbles to the top based on its use and effectiveness by your fellow salespeople. So it's smart. And then there's, of course, marketers on the other side. It's kind of like doing a Google search, right? Where you got sort of the organically searched stuff that bubbles up to the top based on its incredible value as proven. And then there's sort of the paid search stuff that's right there. If the marketer says every time someone, or a content creator says every time someone searches on how do we beat this competitor in the market, I want this asset teed up to the salesperson no matter what. So it gives marketing a reason for being present in the sales organization as well.
That's great. It's really cool.
It's a great question, by the way.
A couple of personal questions before we wrap up. This won't be a Jerry Maguire kind of thing, don't worry.
5'9".
So one is, how do you find
with gel?
How do you find your talent?
Sorry?
How does one find their talent in what they're trying to do? Like how did you find
your own talent?
Yeah.
Like how do you find your sweet
spot? Oh, no,
spot?
I'm sorry. Let me read this a little closer. No, how do you, sorry. These questions
That's not very personal.
Yeah, exactly. John, deep in your soul, what do you think you're really, no, I'm sorry.
I was 3.
How do you, not your talent, how do you find the talent you're hiring? When you're looking for people, as you look at developers, marketing, sales, do you have different strategies for them? You talked about having the SAVO way of doing it. What is it about what you do that's different?
Well, it changes as your organization scales. I mean, early on, so I'm teaching this class at Kellogg, and it's been a joy. It's called entrepreneurial selling. And I think people think, I'm just taking this because I want to learn how to sell to customers, and amen, that's good. You are a salesperson in everything you do as an entrepreneur. If you can't sell to your first employee and get them to take a leap of faith with you, you're dead. I mean, you won't be able to get them. So you got to sell the passion. You got to be passionate, visionary. I'm going to stop at nothing to succeed. So you got to be a good salesperson there. But as the organization scales, that all changes. I mean, we did it through hard work, sweat, and I would do it differently as I talked about earlier. What's really cool is once you get to a certain point, and I think Mark and Jane Seitz at SAVO have done an incredible job of building a self-fulfilling engine. I mean, it's now become a destination place to work because it's not just, we're not just working people hard. We've got SAVO Gives Back, people doing things in the community together. People are philanthropic together. They're having fun together. They're seeing success of a company together. And today, it's a lot easier, I think, to recruit people to a growing, successful company. So I think we could spend a lot of time on that. It's obviously on people's minds. As soon as you can afford it, get somebody to come alongside of you and help you do this. Because if you're a great visionary founder of a company, you probably aren't the great visionary recruiter of people. You got to be the closer, okay? But get somebody to screen who knows how you think, who knows how you feel.
When you were at the heart of your entrepreneurial work and rhythm, what was your day like? What was your morning routine? You know, the question is, what time did you wake up? Did you work out? Family time in the office by? Like, what was it like? How did you, what worked for you?
I'd roll out of the bar about 2 a.m. No, that's not true. It really is your entire life. I mean, so I'm an early riser, and 3 a.m. There you go.
Somebody got an email at 3 a.m.
Oh,
regularly.
yeah. So I had my little pocket. So when my wife and I were blessed to start our family, I said to my wife, I will be home every night for dinner if I'm not traveling. And so what happened was I had an immovable object at the end of my day, which was you need to leave now, which meant the early part of my day just kept getting earlier and earlier and earlier. And I'm not kidding you. I literally would get up at 3 a.m. and I'd have my pocket of like 2 hours of uninterrupted time, and I'd email everybody around, the company.
Send them faxes.
I'd stick my letters in the mail with the stamps. Thanks, Pat. Note to self, Pat's next board meeting. Give him a- But I had my time there. I commuted from the suburbs downtown. Now, I would leave my home at about 5 a.m. because I'd drive. Because usually, by the time we had a sales organization, I knew that either in the morning I'd have to talk to our sales team out east, and in the evening I had to talk to my sales team out west. So it was easy to be in my car and not annoy people on the train. And so my day honestly was that. And when I got home, my day actually during the day was insane. It's as fun as you could possibly imagine. As I said, it's like making really important decisions with imperfect information. And if you're not comfortable in that environment, then hire a new CEO quickly, because that's some of the joy. But honestly, it was like all in. Early on, it was mostly customer interaction. And then later, and some of this was also contributed to why I felt maybe I'm not the best guy at this anymore. I loved interacting with customers, and the bigger your company gets, I have found the less and less you do that. You become more involved in some of the other things. So great days.
One last question we always ask here, as we look at Chicago's burgeoning entrepreneurial community, companies younger, started in the last few years that you're excited about, you may have been exposed to one way or another, that get you excited to go, that could be a really cool company for Chicago? Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of them. And it's been a blessing to be part of CEC and do office hours with young entrepreneurs and all ages, by the way, but companies that are young and visionary. There's a few. I think the caliber of founder CEOs in this town right now is extraordinary. Like way better than me or Drew ever were. I mean, seriously. You notwithstanding, Pat, you are clearly still...
Well, what we're seeing now, though, which is interesting, is there are a number of successful entrepreneurs that we know, I won't name names here, but who have been very successful, who are doing it again.
Yeah.
And so there's an interesting group of people in their 40s who've been successful entrepreneurs who are going again.
Yeah.
And they kind of start on base in terms of their knowledge. It's going to be really interesting. It's kind of the opposite of the 25-year-old. Right. But it's going to be really interesting to see that happen as well.
I'd say I'll highlight three. Company called Base CRM, originally called Future Simple. It's an investment that OCA Ventures made. And the CEO there, a fellow by the name of Uzi, many of you may know him. Brilliant guy, burning passion for reinventing the CRM space, for actually adding customer value. Incredibly innovative business model, and it's been a joy to watch what he's doing with his company. I think about Iris Mobile, a company that I've got the pleasure of getting to know some of the guys there, trying to reinvent the way that handheld marketing happens through interactive media. Highly innovative product, but these are guys who aren't 22 and 23. They've been around the block. They've hired an incredible head of sales, I believe. They got a great founder, a great CTO. They're doing things right, and they're going to grow, and they're going to reinvent the marketplace. And I think of some guys out here from Black Sheep, a media company, kind of taking an old school, traditional way of communicating, newspaper, and kind of turning it on its head and reinventing that. So, I mean, there's just endless. I mean, everywhere I go, I'm asked as if I'm some really smart guy. We spend time thinking about my company. And I always tell people, I've done this once. I'm probably not doing it again. I have one set of experiences. I'm happy to share them. I'm happy to give back with no agenda, and I don't want anything in return. And what I learn is that they're giving me, generally speaking, more than I'm giving them. Inspiration, vision. God, wish I was that smart when I was doing this stuff. And then there's things that inevitably they ask really good questions. And so I think, I got to tell you, it'd be cool to look 4, 5, 7, 10 years from now and realize some of the investment both in people like us, Pat and Kevin, and some of the folks around here who've been around the block who are investing a lot of time and energy helping, and to see what these folks who have taken our help but then put their own stamp and vision on it doing these companies. I'm pumped. I mean, I got to tell you, asking somebody 10 years from now what are the pros of being in Chicago, I think you're going to hear very different answers.
That's right. Well, you know, as someone who's had the benefit of your insight as a board member and as a friend and fellow entrepreneur, it's really great that you're sharing that with so many others. It's really generous. And thank you for sharing here tonight. This was
My pleasure.
Thanks,
cool.
Jeff.
Thanks.